So today we are going to learn how to identify proportional relationships, and we're going to look at it with proportions, and we're going to also look at proportions in tables. So just like before, like always, we're going to write down our definitions. A proportion is an equation stating two ratios are equivalent. So there's the definition. You can go ahead and write that down. Pause this if you need to. Equivalent is equal, so if that word makes more sense, you can use that. And then some examples. These are going to be very simple. So if I have a ratio of 5 girls to 10 boys, that is equal to 1 girl to 2 boys. So remember, an equation has an equal sign, and then a proportion is an equation stating two ratios are equivalent. So very simple example, but that might help you understand it. A proportional relationship is two quantities that form a proportion are in a proportional relationship. So there's the definition, and that example that we just wrote down is a proportional relationship. Example 1 says determining whether ratios form a proportion. Tell whether 6/4 and 8/12 form a proportion. So the steps that we're going to do is we're going to simplify. And then after we simplify each ratio, we're going to compare the two. If simplified, they equal the same number, then they are a proportion. If they don't, then they're not. So 6/4, I can divide the top by 2 and the bottom by 2. So that simplifies to 3/2. Then 8/12, I can divide the top by 4 and the bottom by 4. So that simplifies to 2/3. So I have 3/2 and 2/3. Those are not the same number, so they are not a proportion. So that's my answer. They are not a proportion. Example 2 says tell whether x and y are proportional. So it's telling me that I'm comparing x to y. So x goes on top, y goes on bottom. And then I'm going to look at each entry in the table. So my x here is 1/2. And then my y is 3. And I can do that on my calculator, 1 ABC 2 divided by 3. When I do that on my calculator, that simplifies to 1/6. So I've done this one. Then I'm going to do the same for the next one. I have 1/3. So that's my x. And then my y is 6. That simplifies to 1/6. Alright, so when I looked at my table, I noticed that I had a mistake, so I'm going to do the next one in a different color. So I actually have my x is 1 and my y is 6, so that simplifies to 1/6, so I've done that one. Then let's look at the next one. I have 3/2, that's my x, and then my y is 9. I can enter that in my calculator. 3 ABC 2 divided by 9, and when I enter that in my calculator, that simplifies to 1/6. So I've done that one. And then the last one is my x is 2 and my y is 12. So that simplifies, I can do that one pretty quick in my head. That simplifies to 1/6. So I have 1 over 6, 1 over 6, 1 over 6, and 1 over 6. Those all simplify, all of those ratios simplify to the same thing. So my table is proportional. So that is my answer. The on your own says tell whether the ratios form a proportion. Remember to decide if they form a proportion. They need to be in simplest form, so simplify the ones that can be, and then that's when you compare. And if they simplify to the same thing, they are a proportion. If they don't, they're not. So go ahead and pause the video and work these on your own, and then you can check your answers. So I did the first one, 1 to 2 simplifies to 1 to 2, and then 5 to 10 simplifies to 1 to 2. So those simplify to the same thing, so they are proportional. Right, let's look at the next one. I have 4 to 6, and that simplifies. I can divide the top by 2 and the bottom by 2. So that simplifies to 2 to 3. Then I have 18 to 24, and that simplifies. I can divide the top by 6 and the bottom by 6, or use your calculator. That simplifies to 3 to 4. So I'm comparing those two numbers. 2 to 3 and 3 to 4 are not the same number, so those do not form a proportion. Then my last one, 10 to 3 and 5 to 6, those are, neither one of those can be simplified. That is simplified, so those do not form a proportion either. Alright, so my next on your own says tell whether X and Y are proportional. We're looking at birdhouses built, that's my X, and then birdhouses built and nails used. So my X and Y. So if I build one birdhouse, I use 12 nails. Then if I build 2 birdhouses, I use 24 nails. I can divide the top and the bottom by 2, so that simplifies to 1 over 12. So I've done those. Change colors. Then I'm going to do 48 to 4. I can divide the top by 4 and the bottom by 4. So that simplifies to, except I have a mistake here because I didn't do X to Y, so erase that. Let's see, X is 4 and Y is 48. I can divide the top by 4 and the bottom by 4. That simplifies to 1 to 12, so I've done that one. Then let's look at the last one. I have 6 to 72. Divide the top by 6 and the bottom by 6. That simplifies to 1 to 12. So I'm comparing these. They all simplify to the same ratio. So it is proportional. And you can word that how you want to. You can even just say yes. Alright, so now we have another vocabulary word, cross products, or the cross product property. It might be another way that you see it. And when I hear cross products or the cross product property, I think cross the equal sign and multiply, and then cross products of a proportion are equal. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down. You can too. So there is the definition, cross the equal sign and multiply. That's the algorithm really. And then cross products of a proportion are equal. Remember that the word product means to multiply. So it's really exactly what it is. Cross the equal sign and multiply. So let's look at a quick example. So we'll use our example from the very beginning of the lesson. We have 1 to 2, and we already know that that's proportional. So 1 to 2 is equal to 5 to 10, but we're going to look at it using the cross product property. So you're going to cross the equal sign and multiply. So 1 times 10 equals 10. Then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to cross the equal sign and multiply. 2 times 5 equals 10. These both equal 10, therefore it's proportional. And we already knew that. So it's just another way to check it, or another way to determine proportionality. And now you have two ways to do it. Either way will work. Sometimes might be better one way, and sometimes might be better another way. Alright, so let's look at example 3. It says you swim your first 4 laps in 2.4 minutes. You complete 16 laps in 12 minutes. Is the number of laps proportional to your time? So we're going to look at these two different ways. We're going to look at it the first way, method 1, the way that we were doing it earlier in the lesson. Then we're going to look at it method 2 using cross product property, and that's the way that we just learned. So I'm going to set up my little cheat sheet. I have laps to time. And it doesn't really matter if you put laps on top or time on top, as long as you're consistent across the problem. So the first one is 4 laps in 2.4 minutes. And I want to know, is that proportional to 16 laps in 12 minutes? 4 to 2.4. That simplifies to 1 lap every 0.6 minutes. And then 16 laps to 12 minutes simplifies to 1 lap every 0.75 minutes. So when I look at these, my ratios are not equal. So it is not proportional. And I'm going to abbreviate proportional because I'm running out of room. And this should be laps, not proportional to time. That makes a little more sense. Alright, so there's doing it method 1. Now let's look at it as method 2. So again, I have laps to time. And I have 4 laps to 2.4 minutes. Is that proportional to 16 laps, 12 minutes? I'm going to cross the equal sign and multiply. So cross the equal sign and multiply. 4 times 12 is 48. Then I'm going to cross the equal sign and multiply. 2.4 times 16. I'm going to use my calculator and I'm going to multiply that out. That comes out to be 38.4. So now I'm going to look at these two numbers, 48 and 38.4. They are not equal. So just like in method 1, laps not proportional to time. So the point of this example is it doesn't matter which method you use, you're going to get this, you're going to be able to tell whether it's proportional or not. And like I said before, there's sometimes when you might want to just simplify, and there are sometimes when you might want to use cross product. Go ahead and look at the on your own, pause the video, do the on your own, and then you can come back and check. Alright, it says you read the first 20 pages of a book in 25 minutes. You read 36 pages in 45 minutes. Is the number of pages read proportional to your time? Explain. Alright, so I'm going to set up my little cheat sheet. I have pages to time. And I read 20 pages in 25 minutes. I set up my cheat sheet so it helps me to know where to put the numbers because I need pages on top both times if that's how I set it up. Then I read 36 in 45 minutes. So I'm going to use the cross product property. I'm going to cross the equal sign and multiply. 20 times 45 is 900. Then I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to cross the equal sign and multiply. 25 times 36 is 900. So what I'm comparing are these two numbers, 900 and 900. So yes, they're the same number. So the pages read is proportional to the time. If you still have questions after watching this lesson, come see me in the morning.